Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to review this brand new 1/8 scale, and I use air quotes for that because that's what they claim that this truck is. But as you can tell, it's a little bit more like a 1/10 scale RC truck, but they claim it's 1/8 scale. It is rather large, but this is a brand new, again, 1/8 scale HOSPEED RC truck. The model number on this guy is the HS10423. They have quite a bit of different variations of this 1/8 scale truck. So I am going to show you guys the box because there's a lot of information on this box, and then we'll dig into the vehicle, the accessories, and then get it outside for the drive review, which you guys all want to see. So let's let me move the truck out of the way, and I'll grab the box. And there is the listing of the different ones. This is the one I have, that 10423. You see there's a yellow one, the 2.4 version, which I think is just a different color. These are all going to be the same body and chassis. It's just different bodies on it, I should say. They're all going to be the same chassis, but just slightly different variations. Mostly just looks like different colors from the 21 up to the 26. So it looks to me like the only difference is what color Lexan body you get between red, green, a lighter red like I have, the yellow, an orange, and a blue. Now, as you can see over here, here's some more information, including the battery. It does come with a 2-cell lithium-ion battery, pretty standard size battery. I don't think you're going to get a great runtime just because this is basically a large, more like 1/10 scale truck. That's a rather small battery, so we'll have to see what kind of drive time we would get out of that. But over here on this side, you can see that it mentions, you know, the shocks, which when we get to the review here, the truck here in a minute, I'll discuss those because they're very bouncy. That's the first thing I would upgrade. These shocks are not going to be very good. 6 kilogram high torque servo, and a, yes guys, a 540 motor. I am not messing up. I used to say that quite a bit, and I meant 550 because years ago 540 was kind of the common motor size. They are using, at least according to their specs, a 540 motor in here and not a 550. So I don't want to get any 10 comments in a row telling me it's a 550 motor like I got on my WL Toys 1444001 buggy. I have 3 straight comments from people telling me that it's a 550 because, you know, they have to correct me because, you know, it makes them feel better. On the front here, it says it's waterproof, which is probably going to be more water resistant. I don't think you're going to be able to submerge this guy into water and not fry something. And there's a whole bunch of, I want to make sure there's nothing else before I get to this one side because I usually don't spend this much time on a box. But there's a ton of information on this box, and because the truck is rather big, this is a big box. It has metal drive shafts, or dog bones as we call them. One nice feature that we used to not see years ago, which we do now, is all bearings. It's full ball bearings inside the car. That's going to not only increase your run time, but it's going to give you a better top speed because you have less friction inside. So it just makes the car run so much better. Again, it lists the 540 motor, alloy gears inside. That's good, assuming it's all alloy. That means you're not going to strip them as easily or be prone to heat problems, which might mean that this might be a decent candidate for a brushless upgrade because the metal should be able to handle that. Here's the alloy wheel and axle it talks about, and the differential, which I believe that's just geared. It's not a ball differential. You can see the ball bearing on the outside here, and I want to make sure that we get this focused in, guys. And yeah, again, a lot of metal parts. Here is your receiver ESC combo. They call it a BSC. What, the waterproof glue has been poured. That is interesting. Anyway, it's got a Dean's plug and a couple bullet connectors, the bullet style connectors to the 540 motor. Again, your 6 kilogram high torque servo, some alloy chassis reinforcements, which I'll show you guys in a minute, and then that battery. So let's get onto the truck now. Obviously, we spent an awful lot of time on the box, but there's so much information on that box. I really feel like some of that information I might miss if I'm just going over it myself, just looking at all of the pieces at a glance. So I've already removed the film on the body to give it that nice shine, because obviously I've not driven the car yet. There are 4 body clips, so I'm just got 2 of them in, so that it'll stay in place, but I can get this off quicker here in the video without taking a year to get all the body clips off. So we'll look underneath the hood, so to speak, or under the body, and there is everything. These tires feel pretty nice. Doesn't feel like there's any foam or anything in the inside, but they feel pretty decent, and of course they're pretty big size, and I can tell there's ball bearings just by feeling it. But the shocks, I want to show you guys, these are probably the bounciest shocks I've ever seen. I do like that there's these yellow springs. It's a nice accent. You can adjust the tension, but again, these are just friction spring shocks. There's no oil. First thing I would do is upgrade this to oil fill. It's not going to cost you a lot of money, and it's going to make a big difference, because look at this thing. That is super bouncy. It is just going to bounce like crazy. It's so bouncy that you're going to bottom out at times, probably, if you jump high enough or hard enough. And if you increase the tension on these springs, it's just going to make it even bouncier. So the only way to correct that is to get some real dampening oil-filled shocks on here that will absorb the impact, correctly, and come back up at a more correct rate of speed and not boing, bounce right back up. Here is that ESC receiver combo and that Dean's plug, and here is the battery. The battery comes installed in the car, so if you're looking for it inside the box, you have to swivel this little tab over, and then it lifts up and the battery goes in here. Maybe I can do that real quick, and I'll show you that it goes down in there. So let's make sure that we got my camera. I bumped my camera slightly there, but I want to make sure I got it focused, just manually refocusing the camera. So it goes down in there, and again, this is a lithium ion pack. I'd rather see a LiPo, but a lithium ion is going to be better than a nickel cadmium or nickel metal hydride pack, but this has, LiPos tend to have a little more kick. So 1500 milliamp, that's similar to what I've seen a lot of I've seen them in 1/18th scale cars. So, the capacity on this is not the greatest. I don't think you're going to get a super long run time. It ought to work fine on 2S, though. You're not going to see a 3S on this. But again, I think there's room in here to get a larger battery. Probably a little larger LiPo pack is what I'd recommend going with. But anyway, this will take you on the provided charger, an hour to 2 hours to charge. That is inside of here. You've got a spoiler, which I need to install on the back of the car, and then you've got actual metal 4-way wheel wrench, some extra body clips, a rather decent sized Phillips screwdriver to take apart stuff, and here is, I know it's a little hard to see in the bag, and then down here is your USB to balance port charger. So that's always the way they do it, because you'll get a truer charge. But when you're charging out the balance port and those little smaller wires that come on these, it's going to be a slower charge rate, and off USB you can't do much anyway, so it's going to take it several hours to charge it up. So as I always say in these cases, get yourself a hobby grade charger, even if it's a clone imitation IMAX charger off Amazon or eBay or Banggood. Those chargers are going to charge so much faster. You're going to be able to charge this thing up in 30 to 45 minutes, depending on how depleted the battery is. We'll go over the controller here in just a minute. Let's continue looking at the car. Here is the 540 size. Again, it is 540 brush molded. It's sort of an enclosure back here, so it might be a little tougher to upgrade this. It needs going to getting everything lined up. Most likely you could probably leave this off, but I'm not going to try upgrading this and brush this. I'm just saying it may not be like the easiest upgrade to be able to do. And it is just 2-wheel drive, so it's not a 4-wheel drive. But then you can see there's that ball bearings I was talking about. If it was just bushings, it would not spin nearly as long. But the 2-wheel drive will help in terms of run time. You're turning less parts. You don't have 2 gearboxes to run, so that will help out, especially with that smaller capacity battery. It'll be fun to drive around. Just you're not going to have quite the power and traction going off-road, since it's just a 2-wheel drive vehicle. It's a lot of plastic, otherwise your chassis into the tray here, which this is sort of like, it's a chassis, but it's also a bit of like some people refer to it as like a tray. It's just plastic. But here are those metal reinforcements on the bottom, or alloy reinforcements to the chassis, and that's going to help in those spots in the front and rear where you're getting the most abuse when the vehicle's jumping and such. That this is the spots that would be most prone to probably break, and that's why they do put those reinforcements. Now the turnbuckles here are just plastic, so that's going to be a weak spot. More likely that you're going to break one of these, especially if you hit the wheel really hard. But this stuff should be stuff you should be able to replace with better quality. Here in the rear is also plastic. Be nice if these were metal, you know, at least the link in between would be metal. So, but again, this is roughly like $100, I think maybe less, vehicle that's 1/10 to 1/8 as they advertise it. But again, if I put a 1/10 scale truck next to it, it'd be pretty similar in size. If I compare this, I don't have room to show you, but if I compare this to my real true 1/8 scale Maximus, it's considerable. It's, you know, it's smaller. It's definitely not what I would consider 1/8 scale on this guy. But yeah, anyway, there's not a whole lot left to discuss. Just that, you know, it's, you know, there's a chances that some of these pieces could break just due to the decent size of this and all the plastic parts. But there's still a lot of metal in this inside, and the reinforcements that I've seen worse. Like, again, for around $100, it's awfully hard to complain. You get typically even a 1/10 scale that's even advertised as 1/10 scale accurately. You can't get those for this price. So even if it's not 1/8 and it's really 1/10, this is still a heck of a lot of car, especially for someone who's starting out wants something large and doesn't want to break the bank. That's pretty darn good, in my opinion, is what I'm getting. Now, if I take it out and it drives like a piece of crud, well, that's another story. But just looking at it right now, this is a pretty good deal in terms of what you're getting, assuming that it drives good. And of course, I'll let you guys know that when we get outside. And let's take a look at the controller, and then we'll move on outside for the driver view. I've never seen this controller. A lot of these companies, HOSPEED is one that I've reviewed, I think, something from them once before. They tend to recycle or reuse a lot of different controllers from whoever they buy them from. This is one I've never seen. It actually looks pretty nice. It's got the foam grip, which I'm always a fan of. And I don't know how many batteries it takes, because I have to take that screw out. Looks like it's probably going to be 3 to 4 AA batteries. Your power button is here on the side, and you've got some trims here. You got your steering trim, you got your steering dual rates. That lets you decide how much these tires are going to turn, because this is a fully proportional, because it mentions it has that 6 kilogram steering servo. So that's also good at this price point. It's not something where it's just bam bam steering. And then you've got this speed, which I imagine this is going to be also considered like your throttle dual rate. You can set how fast you want it to go. It's already turned all the way up. That's what I'd recommend it at, because this is brushed. It's not going to be super fast. So I wouldn't mess with that unless you're a beginner or you're giving this to a younger kid. Then they might want to start out with the speed capped down to a lower speed, just because you run this into someone's leg. This is big enough, it's going to smart. It's going to hurt. It probably won't break their leg, but it could definitely leave a bruise. Okay guys, I think that covers everything that comes with this, and just going over the basics of this RC truck. So let's move on outside now for the drive and bash review. Alright guys, so let's take the big HOSPEED 1/8 scale, more like 1/10 scale truck out now for the drive review. Now, one thing that I wanted to correct was the table review. I mentioned that there was maybe room for a bigger battery in here, but what I didn't notice was that there's room for 2 of these lithium-ion batteries, and you can run them parallels, what they're wanting you to do in here. If you buy a 2-to-1 parallel Dean's plug adapter, unfortunately they don't include that in the, they give you just one battery, they don't give you that adapter. But if you would get that adapter and a second battery, it doesn't have to be the exact same brand, just the same capacity, 2S lithium ion, you could run this and get 3000 milliamp instead of 1500 and double the runtime on this guy. So I wanted to go ahead and mention that. Otherwise, this will be right out of the box, ready to go. All I did was I attached the rear bumper. You have to put that on with a couple screws, but I didn't put the spoiler on. That's not a big deal. Doesn't do anything more than looks. That's the one thing I didn't do, is I didn't put the bumper on. So let's see how this big 2-wheel drive truck does. As you can see, there's no gearbox or dog bones in the front. It's just rear wheel drive. Let's go ahead and take it out here in the backyard. Well, that moves better than I thought it would right off the bat. I thought it was going to be, it's pretty big. I thought it'd be a little bit slower. That's actually not too bad. But I got to remember, this rear wheel drive, 2-wheel drive is going to be faster than a 4-wheel drive because you're only running one gearbox, not near as much gears and friction, also less weight. That runs pretty good, especially the way it's geared. Acceleration's really good. Top speed is just, is not bad. And I was really worried about the suspension on this. It's really bouncy. They're just friction shocks, but so far, maybe the size of the vehicle is the reason what helps it. It's not bouncing around as bad as I thought it'd be. You can see it bobbling there, but I was expecting it just to be bouncing all over the place. The big tires, this is actually way better than I thought the suspension would be. It shows you don't always know until you run something. Maybe they realize that this is the best configuration for this truck without going oil filled. On spring friction shocks only, this actually works pretty good. Again, the big tires, big tire wheel combination, the overall larger chassis, it's able to absorb those jumps and bumps where the suspension's not bouncing as constant as I thought it might be. The littler cars, when they use those friction shocks, they're so bouncy that they end up, it's hard to drive them at times. They're flipping over and bouncing all over the place. I gotta say that even though I would upgrade this to oil filled, it's not as urgent of an issue as I thought it would be. So it just shows you, sometimes you get surprised. I thought this thing was gonna be just driving, a pogo stick on wheels, but it's not been that bad so far. Not bad at all. And the speed's not, this speed's pretty good. And of course, being rear wheel drive, you can very easy to do donuts like this. That's cool. I like it. I'm really impressed with this so far. Because I was optimistic after looking at it at the table, but until you get out and drive it, you never know. And with this being $120, $30, I think it was. I think I said it was a little less than a table review than what it really is. For a truck that claims to be this size, it's one of the cheapest you're gonna find at this size. Even though it really isn't 1/8 scale, in my opinion. That's sort of a matter of opinion in some respects, the way they calculate the scale. But it is large. 1/8 scale to me it's a little bit it's a little small, but it definitely is right in that 1/10 scale class. But since they advertise it at 1/8, I'm going to stick with that terminology. But a lot of you are going to probably agree with me. Got some tracks from a mole here, so I'm going to let's see if we can kind of use that as a little mini makeshift ramp. So one thing I really wish I had was a nice ramp for these reviews. It's already kind of flattened it out. But this backyard is going to be all grass eventually, so I can't make a dirt ramp here. I had the ramp in the, when the pool was being built, but that ramp, that dirt and rock is all gone now, so it's all level. Yeah, I like this. This is, this would be a candidate, I think, to maybe consider brushless upgrade. I was uncertain about it, but now that I've driven it some, I think maybe so. As long as you stick with a lower KV and maybe a 2S, I wouldn't go 3S, because it does have metal gears, full ball bearings, so it has some of the basics you really need to have if you're going to go brushless. But I think for most people, this big brush motor, and again, this is a brushed 540 size, not 550. So, at least according to the specs, just looking at it inside there, it looks like a 540. It's a little bit smaller than the 550 in my, just eyeballing it. Yeah, this truck looks like a winner to me. Obviously, just one run here, I can't attest to durability. And I know some of those plastic swing shafts and different stuff like that are going to, you know, possibly the links and things like that could possibly break over time. They're not metal, but the dog bones are. So those are things you may have to upgrade or replace over the time. But I think for this price, this is not a bad for this size truck. And again, the shocks, I'm surprised I don't even see the suspension even being an issue. And I thought for sure it was going to be a problem. It just feels so bouncy. But with these size tires and the composition of it and stuff, it's just the tire it doesn't need. Ooh, that's a nice jump. The suspension's not bad. Yeah, it's a little loose, it's a little bumpy, bouncy, but it's not nearly as bad as I thought it was going to be. But stuff happens, you know. I mean, anybody in this hobby knows. And if you're just getting into this and you're looking for a larger 1/8 to 1/10 scale truck that's not going to break the bank, I think this one looks like a pretty good option, especially I think if you just are okay with a brushed motor and don't want to mess with trying to upgrade, because you just never know how that's going to go. But stuff happens. My brother brought his big HOSPEED J3, I think it is, truck over today, and he doesn't know too much about RC, and he wants me just to pop a dog bone back in that popped out. He's just moved, and he said he doesn't have his tools out, so it's going to be easy enough to do. But, you know, that's a pretty good truck, a hobby grade, and it's got, you know, dog bone popping out of the cup like that's pretty easy, pretty common thing that can happen. You get just the right angle and it can pop out on a lot of vehicles. Happened to me many times over the years. I was used to rear wheel drive. I mean, that's pretty common, so rear wheel drive is fine for me. Four wheel drive was less common years ago, but four wheel drive, again, is slower, and you know, you can't do donuts like this nearly as easily. This is cool. I really like this. I'm really, I say I'm impressed. I didn't expect this. I really thought it would just be decent. This is exceeding my expectations, I think. It's pretty well balanced. It jumps. Look, I've been driving this now for quite a bit, and I haven't flipped it over one time. Now, I'm not doing a bunch of crazy stuff, but usually you'll flip a car. That just shows you how balanced this is, and the suspension, it really is not a problem. That's cool. Just enough dust here after the rain, it's dried out to be able to do these donuts. That's fun, guys. Burnout, like people would like to do in the gravel parking lot at the old Ball Diamonds. All right, guys, I think that's enough to get an idea. This is a fun truck and much better than I was anticipating. I'm going to highly recommend this just based off one run. Look, no damage. Everything is perfect in order. The suspension's far better than I anticipated for a friction shock system. I like this a lot. So if you're interested in this truck, be sure to check out the description below. I have an exclusive coupon that was made for just my channel that will take, I believe it's 10% off the price. So be sure to check out the description to get that coupon if you're interested in picking this up, because you'll save yourself, you know, I think, you know, over $10 off the list price of this if you use that coupon. So do that, guys. If you're new to the channel, you're just checking it out, be sure to subscribe and click the bell so you're notified when I upload videos. And as always, guys, have a wonderful day.
The power of the dark